Welcome to the Privacy News Online Weekly Recap, where we bring you the latest privacy news stories from around the world. My name is Brian Tong, and I am your host, and I just wanted to take a moment to really acknowledge everything going on around us. It's a time like no other with COVID-19 and the tensions from the murder of George Floyd. Everything can feel heavy right now. Real change is needed, and I want to encourage you all to listen to one another and be safe out there. So thanks for that moment. All right, let's get to the stories. Here's the latest from Privacy News Online. Congress delays vote on FISA renewal bill, which would have let FBI access internet history without a warrant. After teeing up a vote on the House floor last Wednesday, Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi ended up pulling the bill and delaying the vote indefinitely after President Trump called on all Republicans to vote against the bill. Now, congressional leaders will try to hash out a new version of the FISA renewal bill to restart the currently stalled government surveillance programs. Here's a novel idea that many privacy groups are in favor of. How about we just let the surveillance programs end? 2 years in, and the GDPR still hasn't been used to issue any fines. When the General Data Protection Regulation privacy law came into effect in the EU 2 years ago, many thought it was going to change the world for the better. Allow the little guy to stand up to the big corporations that have been violating our privacy for years. Now, after years have passed, the regulations still haven't been used to issue any major fines. And one data protection commissioner even held a confidential meeting with Facebook on how best to bypass GDPR regulations. Arizona is suing Google for illegally tracking phone location data. Arizona has filed a lawsuit against Google for violating the state's Consumer Fraud Act. Back in 2018, the Associated Press reported that Google doesn't actually stop tracking your phone location when you turn off location history in your settings. Instead, the location history is stored as activity data and is very hard to delete. Now, 2 years later, the first state is suing Google for these deceptive tracking practices, and privacy advocates are watching this case with gusto. Maine's broadband privacy law gets support from Attorney General, EFF, ACLU, and others. Last year, Maine passed a landmark broadband privacy law that would protect internet users in the state from having their internet activity sold without consent. The law is scheduled to come into effect in July of 2020, but ISPs have challenged it in court, saying that broadband privacy violates their First Amendment right to freedom of speech. Yeah, they actually think it's freedom of speech to tell advertising companies what you've been doing online. Civil liberties organizations and the state's attorney general all told the court that the ISP's argument doesn't make sense, and hopefully the court will throw out the case. eBay website caught port scanning your PC when you visit their site. Security researchers have noticed that when they visit eBay.com, their computer gets port scanned. Port scanning allows eBay to figure out what kind of programs are running on your local network, and is a technique usually utilized by hackers or penetration testers. Now, there are privacy and consent issues with this kind of drive-by port scanning, and eBay has refused to address those concerns directly. Instead, they have insisted that the port scanning is there to protect the user experience. Of course it is. Florida student discovers privacy and security flaw in popular brands of connected cameras. If you have a connected security or doorbell camera, now might be a good time to make sure you're the only one that can access it. Florida Tech student Blake James discovered that many connected cameras don't actually stop providing access to your camera when a user account's access is removed. All in all, almost a dozen brands, including Ring and Nest, are affected by this flaw. If you have such a camera, change the password and turn it off and on again when removing user access to make sure it really happens. Now you're up to date on the latest privacy news. Privacy News Online is brought to you by Private Internet Access, the award-winning, no-log VPN service who reminds you to always use protection. Sign up now and get up to 2 months for free using the link in the description down below, where you can also find a link to learn more about all the stories in this week's Privacy News Online. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Brian Tong, and we'll catch you next week.